Hi, I'm Heather Westwell.
And I'm Fergus Wood-Dunlop. Together, we're New Old Friends Theatre Company. Welcome to Crimes Against Christmas, a daily comedy audio drama for Advent.
If you enjoy the chapter, it helps us if you like, rate, share and subscribe. Plus, if you really enjoy it, there's a link on our website, newoldfriends.co.uk, where you can donate to the company and buy us a virtual coffee.
Oh, delicious virtual coffee.
So, let's start the story. Chapter 1. Peter Artridge.
The morning it all started was a chilly winter's afternoon. Excuse the contradiction, but the situation as it presented itself to me was this. I'd just woken up, ergo morning. However, the time was 4 minutes past 1 and sunlight was peeking around my blind, ergo afternoon. Whatever was ergoing on, I had been woken up by 3 thunderclaps directly inside my brain caused by some inconsiderate creature knocking on my door. I raised my eyes to the glass and took in the silhouette literally darkening my door, with me more hungover than Damocles. The shadow, like all its kind, was silent. The only noise I could hear were the distant strains of 12 Days of Christmas played by the Salvation Army band outside, and some vagrants begging for salvation in the form of a shilling or two. The light in the corridor outside my office was on, backlighting my visitor, so all I could make out was some sort of hat and what was either the upturned collar of an overcoat or the most unusual trapezoids I'd ever seen. "Come in!" The shadow opened the door. What I was looking at didn't change much. It was still basically a silhouette, black hat, black overcoat with black collar pulled up, black sunglasses, black trousers, black gloves and black shoes. Barely a sliver of skin was visible. The particular depth of the blackness went beyond colour. Here was a black hole in human form, allowing no light to escape. "Take a seat," I croaked, peeling something I couldn't identify from my cheek, which turned out to be the remains of a paper crown from last night. "No, thank you. I have enough seats of my own," came the reply. This chap's chat was drier than my throat, but I said nothing as I thought he could be a potential client. "I am here to talk business." Aha! I was right. Here was a potential client. Not much gets past Peter Artridge. Peter Artridge is me, by the way. Peter to my friends, Artridge to most everybody else, a disappointment to my parents. Age 32, occupation, art investigator. Rank, a little probably, I've not showered yet. Wait, what's an art investigator, I hear you cry? I'll answer that in 2 parts. Part 1, stop crying things out whilst listening to this. It's bizarre and will get you funny looks from the other people in the room/carriage/library/bath. Also, if you're sharing a bath with someone, why are you listening to this, for God's sake? Be a bit more romantic. I bet you put them down the tap end as well, didn't you? Part 2. An art investigator is a civilian detective specialising in cases involving art, forgeries, stolen pieces, items of questionable provenance, etc. My work is split between consulting for Scotland Yard and private work, normally for wealthy individuals and occasionally even institutions. It was my work with the Yard that accounted for the chain gang currently breaking rocks inside my skull. I'd been invited to their little pre-Christmas shindig last night and, as the art investigation game isn't perhaps quite as lucrative as I'd hoped, when there's a sniff of a free drink, I inhale deeply. The previous night I was singing carols with the Carols, Barbaras and Mauds of the typing pool whilst dressed to the nines. Whereas I'm forced to admit now I was more at 6s and 7s, tie askew, shirt crumpled, and I daren't even broach the subject of my hair. This fellow stood before me certainly wasn't a Yard case, no. He fell firmly into the wealthy individual category. His outfit may have been achromatically monochrome, but the quality of the cut and the material oozed money, leaving no doubt his bank account was safely in the black too. "How can I help?" I said, while straightening my tie. It's a fairly standard opener, but my guest appeared to take offence. "Not so fast." His voice was edged, and he sliced the air with his hand, a conductor furious with his string section. "How can I be sure you are who you say you are?" "You can't," I cut back. "I haven't said who I am yet." "Very true," he purred, the violas evidently back in harmony. "I see that you are every bit as sharp as they said." "Who said?" "Oh, are you not sharp?" "I'm sharp enough." "So sharp you might cut yourself." "It's been said before." "By whom?" "Those who have felt my edge." "Ah, so. You have answered your own question." If that was true, I hadn't noticed. However, it was taking all my focus just to keep up my end of the conversation, so I wasn't going to press the point. There was something odd about Shadow Man's voice, though. He kept shifting tone and rhythm. Mostly he sounded German, but also Eastern European and occasionally even Arabic or Asian. "Look here, who are you?" I demanded. "That would be telling. So tell. I will not tell you my name. I simply wish to hire you to avert a crime." Or maybe I don't work for people I don't trust. The darkness paused and slowly reached his gloved hand through a gap in his buttons. I'm sure others, less brave souls than I, would have felt a surge of anxiety at this point. Was this strange apparition about to pull out a gun? Obviously I wasn't scared, not a bit of it, no, but others, I'm sure, would have been terrified and then dizzy with relief when what was produced wasn't a gun but a bundle of banknotes. "Here are 50,000 reasons to trust me, with 200,000 more once the job is done." Of course, I gulped. I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt. "Peter Artridge, pleasure to make your acquaintance." I managed to drag my gaze from the small fortune lying before me and tried to look my benefactor in the eye. His eyes, like the rest of him, were so dark I ended up giving myself the steely glare I'd summoned up. It was mildly disorienting to be on the receiving end of my own scowl like that. Although I'm pleased to report the effect was quite chilling, so at least I could be assured of my eyebrow's ability to communicate. "What's the job?" I demanded, recovering my composure. "Ah, the £1,000,000 question." I thought we'd agreed a fourth of that, but I'll take the raise. A little chuckle escaped from the depths of the darkness, proof there was humanity hidden within the murky mufti, and he assured me that all he was asking me to do was prevent a simple household theft. The stack of sterling in front of me was giving me 50,000 reasons to doubt that this theft, whatever it was anything but simple. I raised a quizzical eyebrow while I turned it over in my mind. "I can see you are skeptical, Mr. Artridge, but truly the crime itself is almost certainly a run-of-the-mill inside job." "If it's so run-of-the-mill, why are you paying me $250,000? "It concerns your area of expertise, and the location is—" His voice trailed off. I couldn't tell if he'd stopped talking, forgotten what he was saying, or was expecting me to finish for him. I was just about to take a stab at it. Istanbul was going to be my guess, couldn't tell you why, when he finally found the word he was looking for. "Remote. Yes, the location is remote." Just how remote are we talking here? I don't know why I was getting technical. For £250,000, I'd travel to the ends of the earth. Business is not exactly booming. I needn't have worried, though. No trip to Timbuktu for me. "It is a private island." My head immediately filled with visions of the Caribbean and sun-kissed local beauties wearing whatever it is that sun-kissed local beauties wear there, which, in my imagination, is not very much. "Off of the southwest coast of England." And my scantily clad tropical lovelies were promptly chased off by smock-wearing yokels, with manure beneath their nails, straw between their teeth, and not much behind the eyes. "The island is accessible only by boat. You will not be permitted to return to the mainland until the crime is solved." If I take the case. Such hilarity was apparently contained in those 5 words that the blasted creature laughed so much he doubled over in a coughing fit, producing a handkerchief, black of course, to cover his mouth. It's always rather grating when one is left out of a private joke. A chap can't help but fear he may be the butt of it. "What's so funny?" I demanded. "Oh, but Mr. Artridge, am I not stood in your office and possessed of all my 5 senses?" "What of it?" He made an expansive gesture. "I can see the squalor. I can feel the lack of heating. I can smell the drink on your breath. I can taste the desperation, and I can practically hear the empty echo of your bank account. You will be taking the money, and you will be taking the job." Every inch of me bristled. How dare he? In my own office. He just strolls in here, and I drew in a deep breath, ready to give him both barrels. "That is utterly—" But before I could reach the soaring, expletive-filled section of the vulgar aria I had composed for him, my eyes returned to that little parcel of poundage radiating comfort from my desk. The cash, like young Hamlet's sleep of death, gave me pause. I finished meekly, in the hope of inheriting, if not the earth, then at least the 200,000 brothers of the 50,000 already within my grasp. "That is utterly accurate. So tell me more about this bally theft, then." In the tiny gap between the top of his collar and the bottom of his dark glasses, I glimpsed the corners of his mouth briefly appear in a self-satisfied upward jerk of a smirk. which irked. You have heard of the Fabergé eggs? The perfectly jewelled Easter gifts made by Peter Karl Fabergé for the wives and mothers of the Russian Tsars Alexander III and Nicholas II? Of course I have. Who did he think I was? I'd wager I knew more about Fabergé's eggs than anyone in England. I could list them all, from Hen the First to Constellation the final creation started but never finished due to the 1917 revolution. Damned insolent to even suggest I wouldn't have heard of them. Of course you have. Everyone has. The words positively dripped with disdain. Never mind who did he think I was. Who did this Stygian stranger think he was talking to me like this? But were you aware that in 1888, along with the cherub with chariot for Easter, Fabergé also crafted Alexander III 3 special Christmas decorations? The Fabergé baubles. Baubles? I parroted. Decorations for the Christmas tree? I know what baubles are. I had hung the 2 my aunt had sent me from the handle of the filing cabinet, but I was starting to think that that's what this visit was. A load of old baubles. However, the hypnotic power of £50,000 had me hold my tongue once more. One was smashed by young Nicholas. The other is held deep within the Kremlin, but the third was smuggled out of Russia during the revolution. By whom? The who is unknown and not important. What is important is that the bauble made it out and has been held in secret ever since by the Dukes of Liechtenstein. It is now in the care of the current Duke's heirs, Lord and Lady de Planus. I'd not heard the name de Planus, but it had the ring of those Transvaal types always sloshing their gold mine money around on all manner of masterpieces in an effort to attain that which money cannot buy. Class. Mind you, if I had to choose hand on heart, I'd take cash over class any day. If you say so. So where do I come in? The bauble is not safe where it is. These 8 words were intoned with a gravitas usually reserved to something read from a stone tablet, ideally with lightning flashes earthing neatly onto the staff you're leaning your aged and borrowed frame upon, long white beard flapping majestically in the breeze. I have learned of a plan to steal it, so have organized a party on the Isle of Liechtenstein and invited all the possible suspects. The Isle of Liechtenstein. As with the de Planuses, I'd never heard of the place, but thought it prudent not to point it out. Won't that raise suspicions? I have taken precautions. All the guests are invited there for their own reasons, and the hosts have no clue. I simply convinced them that the party was a good idea. Okay, so if I'm reading you right, the plan is thus. I'm to nip down to this Richten, find the bandit before they nab the bauble, and deliver up the culprit for the delectation of this Duplessis pair. And, for said services thus rendered, you'll cross my benighted palm with silver to the tune of 250 thou. Is that about the long and the short of it? Now this may have been my imagination, but I'd swear the sunglasses glowered at me. Lord de Planus resides on the Isle of Liechtenstein, and what you are being hired for is not quite so simple as you suggest. De Planus and Liechtenstein. Noted. Humblest apologies and all that. But other than my terrible memory for names, what did I get wrong in my appraisal of the situation? The most important part of your task is that it is utterly imperative to keep the bauble a secret. If it were to come out that a priceless piece of Russian history was being kept by the English aristocracy, it would cause quite the scandal. I'd heard that one before. It's amazing how often I'm hired by aristocratic types with strictest instructions to keep things off the record. I'm sure that some of these earls and viscounts are indeed the sort of fiercely private old sticks who don't want a fuss made, but the majority of the scoundrels know that their claims on their art amount to little more than finders keepers and live in fear that the powers that be will repatriate them, or more likely stick them in a museum for the public to enjoy. The British public, mind you, not the public of whatever country it was filched from. I knew exactly the word to deploy in this situation. Fear not, I can be discreet. I have no doubt you can, Mr. Artridge. I'm sure discretion is a vital tool in your line of work. You will be invited to the exclusive annual Liechtenstein Christmas gathering as a guest. You will come up with a convincing reason to be there and then be a delightfully charming addition with the wit you've demonstrated today, all while conducting your investigation in secret. Once more the glove reached inside the overcoat, and if I looked a bit nervous, it was just my hangover, and it was only a bit anyway. Solve the case by Christmas Eve, and there may even be a further bonus for you, Mr. Artridge. Received and understood, Mr. I let it hang, but he didn't bite. He finally took his hand from out of his coat and placed a large card on top of the money. "I am not telling you my name, Mr. Artridge. Here is your invite. Instructions for how you will get to Richenstein are on the back. Goodbye." And with that, the shadow opened the door and backed through it, never taking its eyes, or the reflective surfaces where I assumed its eyes would be, off of me. The door shut, and the silhouette shrunk away to nothing, leaving me once again alone with my hangover.
There it is, chapter 1 done.
Boom!
If you don't want to miss the rest, don't forget to subscribe or check back on or after the 2nd of December, when we'll release the next chapter.
Release the next chapter.